Obstürmt oder schneit,
und die Sonne uns lacht, der Tag glühend heiß.
Alright. So, I watched a movie. And it's crap. It's called Iron Sky. Now, you're probably wondering, but Kalpar, why did you decide that this was a good idea? That's summed up with two words. Moon Nazis. Now, basically, when I went into this movie, I was kind of expecting it to be fun, because the idea of moon Nazis is actually as old as World War II itself. I mean, you got rocket ship Galileo. This was first printed in 1947. I have like a 1960 something copy, but it's a story about Nazis on the moon and some brave Americans discover them. It's been in countless conspiracy theories, other sci-fi stories. Nazis on the moon. It's stale at this point. It's 2012. It's a dumb idea, and so I was kind of expecting them to sort of acknowledge that this is a dumb idea, but we're going to have fun with it anyway. What I'd been hoping for was that Iron Sky, what they would do was they'd take this concept. Basically, the concept starts, it's 2018, and an American astronaut discovers the secret Nazi moon base on the dark side of the moon, and so the Nazis decide to invade Earth. And I was thinking it'd be like just this fun idea where it's like Nazis invade and we have to fight them and it'll be, a popcorn movie and stuff. But it's not. It's not. And I'm going to try to explain what's wrong with it, but I make no guarantees if I'm going to make any sense. But I'm going to give it my best shot. Now, the first thing, really the warning sign that let me know that this movie wasn't really going to be good was when I saw, I don't know how many minutes this is in, but at some point in the movie, very early on, you find out that she's not explicitly Sarah Palin, but someone who looks and acts a lot like Sarah Palin is President of the United States. And let me explain what's wrong with this. The thing about making jokes like Sarah Palin, and I don't really like Sarah Palin myself personally. I don't really get what her appeal is, but that's another issue. The reason I don't like jokes about, say, Sarah Palin is it's very time constrained. It's like making jokes about Hostess going out of business. It's funny for like 2 months, and then every time after that, no one's going to get the joke, or they're going to be sick to death of it. It's like, personally, it's for me like jokes about Bill Clinton being this philanderer and, having sex with interns and stuff. And yeah, it happened, but it's not funny anymore. It was funny in the 90s for a brief period of time, and then everyone, I think, just sort of got sick of it. Or a significant number of people, but they're still making jokes about it. And why I'm making this point is by making Sarah Palin be the president in this movie, you've dated the movie. And it's kind of like the Scary Movie franchise, and then the Meet the Spartans and Date movie and all that other junk that's branched off of it. It's jokes that are only funny at the time the movie comes out, but are no longer funny after that because everyone's heard them before, or for people like 20 years from now, they're not going to get some of this stuff. And it's just. So it's not a very good decision. It was a very bad decision on the part of just the people in charge of this movie. I don't know who to blame for that. The writers, the directors, the fans, because apparently there was a lot of fan funding for this. Just that alone was enough to put serious warning bells in my mind going into this movie. Now, the plot gets worse from there. So, the astronaut, and I apologize because I didn't catch anyone's names in this movie at all. Like, I'm vaguely aware of what the characters are because there's like 6 characters in this movie, and I didn't get any of the actors' names. I mean, I'm bad enough with actors' names as is, but it's no one famous was in this movie. But anyway, the astronaut, one of the astronauts who finds the Nazis on the moon, is a black guy. So it's like, oh, it's a black guy dealing with Nazis. Nazis hate black people. Oh, awkward situation. And it falls flat, honestly. It's just not funny. And then this is really dumb. They take the black guy and they give him some sort of shot or something which turns him into a white man with blue eyes. And I don't know why they chose to go this way with it. I really don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say it's offensive because, if they'd done it the other way round, like with blackface, that would have been just so incredibly offensive. I don't even want to talk about it, but it's just dumb. It's dumb. It serves no purpose in the plot of the movie. It's just there to create a haha, this black guy now suddenly finds out he's white and is unhappy about it thing. It's a throwaway joke, really. And then there's just a lot of lowbrow humor that, like sometimes that can be funny, but let me put it like this. Mel Brooks, and Carvan's probably going to yell at me for this, but Mel Brooks does a lot of lowbrow humor, and that's what he's good at. And it's funny, because the entire comedy is sort of built around that. But in this case, I feel like the movie is trying to be smart, because there are a lot of things in there like helium-3, which apparently is actually an important component in fusion reactions, and references to, cultural works. The Nazi spaceships are named after Wagner operas, which makes sense. There's a lot of smart stuff in this movie apparently, but then it relies on cheap sex jokes, and the Nazis send an advance force down to Earth and they land in a pot field, and it's like, haha, they're in a pot field, and the black guy recognizes it because it's pot, and black people do drugs. Stereotypes, offensive stereotypes. So I've covered it maybe the first 20 minutes of this movie, but basically the point where I gave up, the point where I just stopped being any sort of emotionally invested in this movie was when Sarah Palin's campaign manager, who is managing Palin's re-election campaign, started doing a bit it was a reference to the bunker scene in Downfall. Now, I've never actually seen Downfall, but I'm aware of this scene because people have done a lot of parodies of it on YouTube. And you can find this. Basically, it's a scene where Hitler is in the bunker and he tells his men, well, he tells everyone except a handful of important staff to leave the room, and then he starts shouting at them about all this random stuff. And people have done, I've seen stuff like Hitler's disappointed that his name is being tossed around casually and everyone's making fun of his mustache. I've seen it for Notre Dame's football team. I've seen it for Justin Bieber. Really anything has been applied to this scene. And the point where I gave up was when Sarah Palin's campaign manager starts going through this. And I just said to myself, you're doing Downfall. You're parodying you're basically parodying a parody in a way, and I just couldn't take it. That's the point where I checked out of the movie. Really, I mean, I watched the rest of it, but I accepted that there wasn't anything good that I was going to expect from this movie. So, what happens is the Nazis, despite having somehow developed a moon base after World War II, in the closing days of World War II, and escaping to the moon, and developing just this entire ecosystem, I guess, this self-sufficient base on the moon, they're still using 1940s computers with vacuum tubes. So there are those huge freaking computers that are take up a hall room, you know. So their massive doomsday weapon needs a massive computer to operate it. And then they find out that the black guy's cell phone is capable of powering the ship some... Don't ask me how, it's not well explained, but haha, it runs out of battery life, because that's the trouble you run into with cell phones. It was dumb. So they have to go and steal another computer from Earth to power the doomsday weapon, which will then help them take over the Earth. They're Nazis. They want to take over the Earth, and this is the problem that bugs me. Is this could have been a really fun movie? Just the Nazis invade, and the world has to fight back, and space battles, and all that stuff. It could have been really fun, but it wasn't. All of the fun got sort of dragged out because you had just all of these stupid jokes. Like the United States has this spaceship which is called the USS George W. Bush in 2018, and it's like, really? I mean, say what you will about George Bush. Now's not the time to get into a discussion of it, but it's clearly thrown in there for a joke. And it's not a good joke. It's a topical joke that isn't funny. So, and this is just sort of ignoring the dumber plot where, so you have two. Alright, so we have girl Nazi and guy Nazi. The two of them, the guy Nazi is going to be the next Fuhrer, and the girl Nazi is his wife to be because they have pure Aryan genes, whatever. And the girl Nazi somehow has, being raised on a moon base, has come to the conclusion that National Socialism was this philosophy of love and friendship and peace, when it wasn't. That's kind of the joke there. And then there's, like, they even throw in The Great Dictator, the old Charlie Chaplin film, which the Nazis apparently have a 10-minute version, which makes it look like Chaplin is praising Hitler and Nazism, while the Nazi girl goes down to Earth and sees the full 2-hour version of The Great Dictator and finds out that they were mocking Nazism. And then she finds out that Nazis aren't exactly good people. So she joins the black guy's team and is like, I want to stop the Nazis. And the Nazi guy, I think his name is Klaus. It's probably Klaus or Hans or Otto, something German. But he wants to be Fuhrer and then invade the Earth, so he steals a tablet PC so he can power the Doomsday weapon, the Götterdämmerung, and attack the Earth. Somewhere along the way, the Nazis get press ganged or recruited to help with Sarah Palin's re-election campaign, which is kind of pointless and goes nowhere. And then, so the Nazis, finally, we get to like the third act of the movie. Thank God, because the first act is like, first act consists of finding the Nazis, and then the Nazis go down to Earth. And then the second act involves the Nazis helping Sarah Palin with her political campaign. And then the third act, thank God, is the war with the Nazis. The thing we were waiting for and wanted to see. And alright, the other dumb thing I want to mention is, so Sarah Palin is excited because she's now a wartime president and she's fighting Nazis, which are, I mean, let's face it, Nazis are the universal bad guy. You can kill 5 million Nazis and still be considered a good person because they're Nazis. They are the boogeymen of the 20th and 21st century. They are the orcs, they are the monsters, they are the acceptable targets. And so she's excited that she has a war against genuine Nazis. And so there's a line where they're like, oh yeah, they call FDR spastic, and I didn't like that. I really like FDR, and I thought that was in poor taste. But so Sarah Palin's like, well, I'm FDR now, and so her campaign manager is like, well, who is going to be your Patton or your MacArthur? And Sarah Palin says, well, why don't you do it? Now, so Sarah Palin's campaign manager, a woman with no military experience whatsoever, is going to command Earth's defense against the space Nazis. What? Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? What the? It would have cost you that much money to introduce another character? Really, guys? Really? What the hell? Just seriously. Alright, so, moving on. We get to the space battles, and to their credit, the space battles are pretty freaking cool. We get UFOs fighting F-22s and giant space zeppelins and meteor bombs, and it's really cool. And we got ships coming in, and it turns out every nation except Finland armed their ship. I kind of laughed at that. I laughed when the Russian ship showed up and the Russian national anthem started playing. I thought that was funny, and I was like, yes, this is cool. This is what I wanted. And then it just sort of, and it takes a really dark turn in the last 15 minutes or so of the movie, because they come to the moon base, and Sarah Palin's campaign manager is like, alright, let's nuke the fuck out of this moon base. We're gonna kill everyone. And the crew members like, there are women and children and civilians in that base. And she's like, I don't care. Atomic missiles everywhere. And like, well, okay. So they bomb the moon base, and girl Nazi and black guy managed to stop the giant doom machine that the Nazis had built. And Klaus gets stabbed in the head with a stiletto boot, which I thought was very dumb. Kind of a stupid ending, really. And so what happens is we find out that the Nazi moon base, they're pretty badly damaged, and the surviving women and children and non-military personnel are just sort of surviving. And so black guy and Nazi chick go down, and they're like, I don't know, it's implied they're gonna like try to rebuild society and make everyone not be Nazis and stuff. But I don't know. I kind of want to say, but they're Nazis, when they're trying to sort of evoke this emotional response that it's just women and children down there. And I'm thinking, but they're Nazis? It's been 70 years of nothing but Nazis up there? And maybe that's not a valid argument. I don't know. I'm too tired to fight this. So the movie ends with, as I might have mentioned, there's the helium-3, which is sort of casually slipped in at the beginning of the movie. Helium-3 is an actual element. It's an isotope of helium, which consists of 2 protons and 1 neutron. And it is actually used in fusion reactions, apparently, or the study of fusion reactions. And the thing is, so they find this large supply of helium-3 on the moon, and everyone wants it. And the United States is like, nope, it's ours, we put our flag on it, we won the war, we beat the Nazis, so all this helium-3 is ours. And so everyone else in the world, they have like a UN thing there. They have a council of UN delegates, and they all start fighting over it, and the spaceships up around the moon start killing each other, and it all gets very slow and very sad and very dramatic. And as the movie ends, we get a shot of Earth. It's a sort of gradually retreating shot of Earth, and we see atomic strikes happening across the planet. So this movie, this self-proclaimed comedy, ends with atomic holocaust. There was a very wise man who said to me once, well, not to me, he said to a lot of people once, that there's a four-letter word that's very important to consider when you're talking about movies. And that word is tone. And he said, Citizen Kane does not open with a pie-in-the-face gag for very, very good reason. Which is that the first 15 minutes of a movie set the tone for the whole movie, and to have something completely incongruous to the start of the movie, it throws the audience off. And I feel like we had this, except it happened on the back end. In the last 15 minutes of the movie, we go from something which was attempting to be a topical, popular comedy, and it becomes this tragedy. And the tone just doesn't fit. So, it's just not fun. I end up just not liking this movie, and it's not fun. And I was just kind of, really what I was expecting was Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. And this movie, I don't know. I've heard mixed things about Sky Captain, but I personally really like this movie. And the reason I like this movie is it's fun. At least for me. It doesn't have actual Nazis, but it's got that diesel punk aesthetic, and there's a crazy German scientist, and it's just got this really great sense of adventure and excitement, and it's fun for me. I had a good time watching this movie. I was hoping that that would happen with Iron Sky, because you can't take moon Nazis seriously. It's like, it's been done before. Nazis have been done to death. We're really at the point where you can only do it as a satire or a parody. And what I was hoping was that they'd take this concept of moon Nazis invading the Earth, and they just have fun with it. They just make it a fun movie and exciting and have all these cool space battles. But they end up they have the cool space battles for a very small portion of the movie, but most of it is like topical comedy, or not very good comedy, in my opinion, mixed in with the last 15 minutes of this just absolute tragedy as we watch the world fall apart. From orbit, but we're watching the atomic strikes, obviously. This is kind of the end of the world. So, it's just not good because of that. It doesn't work really on any level. Maybe if there was a funnier ending or an okay ending, you could argue that this is a comedy, but it doesn't have that. Just the tonal shift is so great that I cannot accept this as a comedy. So that's my thoughts on Iron Sky. I'm sorry that I rambled for so long about this, but there was just so much. I didn't even probably cover everything that's wrong with this movie, but I felt like I covered a lot of the major points. And so don't bother with this movie. It's not fun, it's not exciting, and it's not like Nazi punching action that I've come to expect from like Indiana Jones and Captain America. So just don't bother with it, honestly.